Experience starting as a robin on a survey party when I was 18 years old. I am a resident of Sarasota County and I have lived here for 33 years. I am a resident of the Palmer Ranch and I live 5 minutes from here. I am the president of Minder and Associates Engineering Corporation, and my firm has designed the plaza at Palmer Ranch. We have designed Vintage Grand. We have designed Mar-a-Lago, and I live in Villa d'Este and Constancia on the Palmer Ranch, and my firm designed that subdivision also. My wife and I have lived here in Sarasota County 33 years. Our children grew up here in Sarasota County, and my wife worked for 20 years with the Sarasota County Health Department as a medical records administrator. I have a degree in civil engineering from the University of Illinois, and I have done graduate work in environmental engineering at the Illinois Institute of Technology in Chicago, Illinois. My children are all college graduates, and my two youngest children have master's degrees. I have served on the Pine View Association board until my children graduated from Pine View, and at that point I decided to resign from the board and give someone else the opportunity to still have children in Pine View to serve. I have served on a number of Sarasota County committees for the Florida Society of Professional Engineers, and I'd just like to thank everybody for the opportunities I've had here in Sarasota County. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan?
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me here. I'm going to mix it up a little bit and start out by introducing the lady in the blue striped shirt sitting right in the second row, my wife, who everyone tells me I need to bring everywhere I go because I show much better with her standing next to me. So I did that. There's two other people that really helped get me a start here, and they represent you, really. There's Justin Powell, who's the VP of Palmer Ranch, sitting back there. He's probably annoyed that I'm even announcing him. And a good. Now we're gonna really be angry with me. And a 30-year lifelong friend, Jim Paulman, who took me Jim is the senior principal and planner of Stantec. And Jim gave my old firm a lot of their work on Palmer Ranch years ago. And Jim has been a part of all of Palmer Ranch. Because of Jim, I got to meet Mr. Culverhouse Sr. and Hugh Culverhouse Jr. That said, I arrived here on Thanksgiving Day 30 years ago. Everybody thinks they're so different, but sell a house, give yourself a 4-day weekend to move. I've got 3 beautiful kids, 3 grandchildren, the latest grandson born Saturday night. So we're delighted with that. I'm an accountant by degree and a certified planner by profession. I built 4 businesses in my 30 years here, and Nancy and I are very, very proud of that. We've hired hundreds of people. We've employed hundreds of people in all our businesses. We have a vacation rental business that we operate out of Sarasota County, up in Gatlinburg in the Smoky Mountains. We ran 2 big restaurants, one in South County and one in Mid County, Frosted Mugs, which were probably the most work and the way we met so many, many people. And then for the last 17 years, I retired in April. I was one of the senior principal owners of the engineering firm that did a lot of the work here on Palmer Ranch. I've gotten a lot of endorsements, the most recent one last week from the Sarasota Association of Realtors. And there's a lot of things that I would try to accomplish. Because I went to school 27 years ago. Planning Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, the Fire Commission, the Code Enforcement Board, all the nonprofits, 27 years worth, Minnesota Goodwill, Habitat for Humanity, the Suncoast Blood Bank, all positions that you need to be vetted for. I've been on the board of directors of Chambers of Commerce. I'm currently the treasurer of the blood bank.
Thank you, Steve.
My name is Steve McAllister. I'm a native of Sarasota, which is kind of rare, as everybody tells me, but I keep meet quite a few of them. And I keep getting asked why I'm running for county commissioner, and in large part because I can. Because I want to live a great life, and I want that for others as well. And I think that we're given this opportunity to have this kind of democracy when a regular old citizen, everyday guy like myself, can kind of get up and make his points heard and address his community and really be a part of it. And I think if we want democracy to work, then I hope that my campaign inspires more people to do that. So it's not just a bunch of mules and elephants who are doing this thing, but actual bona fide people who are getting up and standing with integrity, with character for what they believe in and doing their thing. When I started my campaign, I started saying I was running along the themes of sustainability, resilience, and quality of life. SRQ, right? So everybody said, oh, that's not enough, I want more. So I gave them an 8-point platform, and they said, that's too much. So I want to give you the 8-point platform of what I find important. And this is based, I have a degree in psychology and a background in psychology and mental health. And I always looked to Abraham Maslow, who had this hierarchy of needs, because he looked at the successful people, not the pathologies, not the people who were suffering, but those who made a great life. And so I looked at that as I put this together, thinking if it's good for an individual, it's good for a community. So first, I think we need to expand our food shed and our agricultural activities, including an edible garden in every school. We need to decrease homelessness by cultivating interdependence and utilizing all available homes to ensure affordable housing for all. We need to develop more entrepreneurial and worker-based cooperative businesses that inspire win-win situations and build stronger community ties. Number 4, we need to open up to complementary currencies and trade exchanges as ways for people to participate in the community beyond financial short-sightedness. We need to recognize our power to utilize a myriad of alternative energies to move past the limitations of the worldview that prizes scarcity and lack and promote healthy lifestyles and conscious living. We need to cultivate creative collaboration and build upon the artistic energies that Sarasota inspired to educate, entertain, and enlighten in building new economic streams. We need to practice new urbanism development, creating walkable, live-work neighborhoods that support stronger families, permaculture design, entrepreneurial excellence, and community spirit. And lastly, we need to call for religious leaders to celebrate the year of Jubilee, described in Leviticus 25, to forgive the debts that greed and folly have created, so that all may live abundantly. I know that last one was rather out there, but I figured as long as I was going for it, then we'll go big, right? So that's kind of what I'm about, is really looking to what's the best way to celebrate the abundance that we have. Sarasota has often been called paradise, even on Wikipedia, the city, that's its nickname. And we need to recognize that and know that we have many, many possibilities that we can strive for. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Last but not least, Pete.
I might be least. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Pete Tyson. Thank you for having me. We are here today at a religious institution, Covenant of Life Church. There is a theme running through the Bible that over the ages, when people did God's will and followed God's commandments, their homes, families, farms, businesses prospered. When people did not do God's will, everything went, quite literally, to the devil. Today, we hear a lot of complaining that things are not going well. Scandals, corruption, inflation, unemployment, racial division, a refugee invasion, homelessness, and lies, 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 and more lies from the government at all levels. At all levels. You could even say that the country is going to the devil. Now, why might that be? Are people today failing to do God's will? Are people today even redefining God's will? Well, are they? For the time is coming when people will not endure sound teaching, but having itching ears, they will accumulate for themselves teachers to suit their passions. Teachers to suit their passions. Are we in the end times? Are we? That depends. If we return to God and put away all this nonsense, return to God and follow his teachings as he taught his teachings, not as the passion teachers teach. If we return to God, then God will again bless us. However, we have a government that has departed from the ways of its founder. This is not the first time for this either. Governments founded in freedom usually return to dictatorship in 200 years as a historical average. A dictatorship by a coalition of the Chamber of Commerce and the Board of Realtors is still a dictatorship. Our nation has a sort of Bible of its own. There are basically two books, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. These books, too, have been subjected to teachers that satisfy passions.
Pete, you'll have to stop now. Sorry, the sign's up.
Oh,
Sorry.
anyone wants the rest of it? See me out.
We have so many other things to do.
Thank you, Pete. Norm Clinton has our second question.
First, I'd like to thank each of you for your interest in public service. Appreciate it. Back in 2002, Sarasota County adopted a well-crafted and widely accepted 2050 plan. It was in regards to the future growth of the county, particularly in the rural areas east of I-75. Presently, our county planning board is proposing a number of changes to this plan, many of which are designed to accelerate this growth rate from the previous 2050 plan. We would like to have your comments on these proposed changes and how it may ultimately affect we, the taxpayers, that are here now. Thank you. Let me start with Shannon. Shannon.
Appreciate the question. The current direction and the changes that are being planned for 2050 are going to accelerate the growth in eastern Sarasota County. That competition for infrastructure dollars is going to pit basically northeastern Sarasota County against South County. And we're going to end up with political turmoil further down the road on our county commission 5 to 8 years down the road. I think that the summation that some people have called it the gutting of what this community had envisioned in 2002 is correct. I made my decision off of spending years on the planning board in the city of Sarasota and actually discussing new urbanism and how it was affected by urban sprawl. I'm not against growth. I think if anybody takes a good look at my record inside the city of Sarasota, I've been pro-quality growth. I think where this comes about is that the abandonment of fiscal neutrality, no matter how it's cut, no matter how many impact fees are raised out there, it will not raise enough money to build the infrastructure that's going to be required. I think that's going to be very evident. One only has to look at the University and I-75 to see poor planning. When that mall's open up, we're going to have gridlock at University and I-75. I think 2050 will bring similar results, and I don't think Sarasota County as a whole will be better off for it.
Thank you, Paul.
we can't possibly cover all the bases of something like 2050 in 2 minutes, unless you're from New York and you can talk really fast. No, actually, you can't even do it then. Fear is a very, very powerful thing. And in political campaign, it's just about the currency that we trade. Anyone who wants to know about 2050 is going to have to invest a little bit of time and see what is really being proposed is not gutting by any way, shape, or form. You have a plan. Don't take my word for it. The father of New Urbanism says a failed New Urbanist plan. The principles, the academic principles, are not actionable the way they are. They will contribute to sprawl. That's the irony in this whole thing, as they are. The other thing is, the whole idea that things should pay for themselves, I would tell you that that's why you should be in support of the changes. No one is saying that development that is built out east or whatever would have to pay for infrastructure. They have to pay for all those costs. Now, by building Ranch X, you get nothing. You're burdening every taxpayer. That's the truth of it. But it's tough to go through the details in 2 minutes, so it's much more effective to scare you. Your quality of life is going to erode. There will be traffic issues. There always are. When you have more people coming than there are here, there will be some issues. We need to do a better job mitigating those issues. No question. Couldn't agree more. My mother lives on University Park. Every day I have to hear about how bad the traffic is. And so, Mom, if you didn't go to the mall every 5 minutes, you wouldn't have to worry about it. So, really, I would love for anyone who has the time after this thing, I'll talk as long as you want to talk about 2050, because what's going on here is quite unreasonable, the way it's been represented. And frankly, I'm not into the political rhetoric part of this. As a technocrat, I believe in solving problems seriously, not just talking about them. You don't show up to the axe and say, wow, this is really terrible. You do something about it.
I want to give you an example of what it's all about. Lakewood Ranch South was entitled to, that's 5,000 acres east of I-75 off University Parkway. Before 2050, they were only entitled to 57 units because of their zoning, 1 per 160 acres and 1 per 10 acres, and they had wetlands, etc. They got approved for 5,000. That's one village. So when you have 50 units, what do you need? A couple of roads, and you'll be on septic. But when you go to 5,000 units, you need a dedicated school, dedicated fire station, more roads, sewer hookup, water hookup. So when you get that gift, because you have to opt into Sarasota 2050, to get that increased density, the deal is you have to pay for all those new government services that development now requires. That's called fiscal neutrality. So the first thing that comes out of the developers in 2012 when they were complaining about Sarasota 2050 is that fiscal neutrality is a burden to them. And that was echoed by one of our county commissioners. So yes, now they're talking about, well, we really don't want to change fiscal neutrality is the common theme you hear from the county commission today. But what they're doing is redefining fiscal neutrality so that, they can say we're not eliminating it. But if we change the meaning of fiscal neutrality, which means currently the Sarasota taxpayer is not burdened by the cost of infrastructure, to say, Sarasota County taxpayer is not burdened by some of the infrastructure, then they're not technically eliminating the term. So yes, they are having and gutting Sarasota 2050, and I think it's really important for us to stand up and say we will not pay for infrastructure for new development east of I-75. Thank you.
Well, I have a little different point of view. I think that the 2050 plan with what I call the fiscal neutrality nonsense should be scrapped. And I think the 2050 plan has brought economic disaster to Sarasota County. We've had one development in the last 8 years, and fortunately that development was affordable housing. And that the only reason it was approved was because the developer had deep pockets and he could finance the project himself. I attended the planning commission meeting that you're talking about, and I told the planning commission that night that I thought that the 2050 plan with what I call fiscal neutrality nonsense should be scrapped, and that I think that the changes that are being made are are too late and too little. And I have told them that they need to develop east of the interstate a total plan community like we have here on the Palmer Ranch, and to move the urban service boundary to the Sarasota County line. I served on the committee that set the urban service boundary. The urban service boundary is nothing but a line drawn on a map. It doesn't really mean anything. It was just the development that we thought that the Sarasota County could sustain at that period of time. And again, I will repeat, I think that we need to see a total plan, community plan east of the interstate. I think the changes that have been made now are very necessary, and I think they will take us through until we can get to a total plan community such like the Palmer Ranch east of the interstate. The Palmer Ranch was the forerunner to all of the development in Lakewood. My firm is working in Lakewood every day, and thank you.
Thank you, John. Ellen?
Well, first of all, I'll echo, do not cave in, do not get frightened. The sky is not falling. Let me give you some facts. 2050 was adopted in 2002. It was put on hold because of a lawsuit by people who thought it was horrible and should be stopped in its tracks. You all funded that lawsuit to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was allowed to move forward. Oddly enough, some of the same people that said it was horrible and needed to be stopped are the same people who were saying, don't change anything. Sarasota County has had an 18% growth rate over the last 10 years. Simple math, 1.8%. None of us paid for any of that because our millage rate for the last 13 years stayed the same or went down. And we now have the second lowest millage rate out of all the counties in the state of Florida. 2050 got reviewed in 3 pieces. The first 2 pieces, staff put a slide up in its PowerPoint during the second piece of the review, and it actually said, none of this changes the direction of 2050. So people will throw out the easy term that it was gutted. The number, kinds, and locations of the villages, the hamlets, and the settlements didn't change. And the first village that got approved at 2 units per acre is one of the ones that was always approved, and that was the deal, that they would